Everybody, what is going on? It is Crypto Bobby. Hope you are having a great day, great night, wherever you are watching or listening in from. Welcome to another episode, another edition here of Crypto Happy Hour, or probably more aptly titled Crypto Sad Hour. Bitcoin has gotten whomped in the past few hours after the ETF was pushed back. The altcoins have equally gotten whomped, so your portfolio is screwed. My portfolio is maybe a little bit screwed. Did have a short position. I do have a short position open right now, a hedge open, so thank God for that. But yeah, still getting screwed regardless. And really appreciate everybody taking the time. What is up, Slayer? What's up, Fierce? I appreciate the kind words as always. Eric Budsman, thank you for the happy 1 year. Can we get a shout out for BitConnect? Hey. Now, outside of that, I really do appreciate all the kind words from everybody recently. Yeah, today is actually the 1 year anniversary of making videos on YouTube, so it's been a crazy ass year. Still about double the price of Bitcoin from where we started, which is pretty nuts, but it feels like right now is just death. So it's been a pretty crazy 365 days in the crypto world, and been happy to be a part of it. Recently hasn't been a ton of fun seeing some of the funds dwindle down, but really do appreciate the time. So, popping over here, I mean, I guess we can, I made a video about it earlier, but we can definitely sum up some of what's gone down with the SEC Van Eck delay. There was actually a good post, and shout out to Jake. I'm probably butchering his last name, but you should give him a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. But Jake Travinsky, he tweeted this on July 24th. He pretty much called it exactly how it was going to play out. But Jake tweeted this out, said essentially that too long didn't read. The SEC can and probably will delay its decision on the Van Eck SolidX commodity-backed Bitcoin ETF until February 21st. 2019, and that's basically the first step of what has happened so far. The Bitcoin ETF was the Van Eck SolidX ETF, which many consider to be the best shot at an ETF to get approved. It was up for its first round of potential approval, and it was pushed back, delayed until September 30th. The maximum date it can be pushed back till is around February 21st, if the dates are correct there. So that is probably the time in which you can really realistically expect a potential Bitcoin ETF, at least approval, not even going live. But you're looking all the way to February 1st, 2018. So it's a really good thread from Jake. He talks a lot about some of the different aspects of it. So you pretty much, what happened really was they submitted the ETF, then they have 45 days to decide. Then they can extend the application once, twice, and then 3 more times. So 45 days, 90 more days, and then 60 more days. So we just extended it another 45 days. There's a potential 90-day extension after that, and then another 60 days after that. Does it really make all that much of a deal? Not a big deal, to me at least, but the market's obviously taken a beating because of it. We're right now below $6,600. A lot of people said the resistance level was $6,800 or so. I had a short position opened just below 6,800. I opened a short at 6,775 or so, and that's still open right now. So letting that ride is a little bit of a hedge because I'm probably overexposed on the long side of the house. And hope you guys are actually drinking something decent. I have a little bit of bourbon, actually. I was going to drink a beer, but my fridge isn't that cold for whatever reason. I need to get somebody to fix it. So the fridge isn't that cold, so the beer's not that cold. So drinking some whiskey on ice, because why the hell not? And because today is more of a whiskey night than a cold beer night, because you need whiskey to dull some of this pain, right? If anybody's drinking anything good, definitely let me know. And if you're watching this right now and outside of just getting a beating in your portfolio, hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button. Definitely helps to get this video out to as much as possible. But I'd love to hear what you're drinking, or if it's water, if it's milk, I don't care. But it doesn't have to be alcoholic. Just coffee, that sounds pretty nice. Michelob Ultra on deck. Somebody's on a diet. I can respect that. I can respect that. Drinking a Founders Dirty Bastard. Founders is a great beer. There's no doubt about that. Founders is fantastic beer. So, as we're talking about this stuff, guys, if you have specific questions on anything as well, happy to start just taking those questions. Really just wanted to kind of hang out here. I already did a little bit of a video today. Yeah, the red solo cup. I actually have my whiskey cups in the dishwasher because I'm lazy and I haven't washed them. So we're doing a red solo cup. And outside of that, yeah, it's whiskey, ice, and a little bit of your tears, David. Little tears in there. Little good action there. Expat Ran air swap updates. So actually tomorrow should be a fun day. We are it's the suicide hotline, Jesus. So yeah, tomorrow just at air swap, as a lot of you guys know, I'm full-time there. Some interesting stuff that we're doing. We're having a live stream of an event that we're having at our office where we're talking about some new product updates, some new product advancements. Pretty excited for that. So if you're interested, go to the AirSwap Facebook page. I'll probably tweet out a link to it as well. But some good stuff that you'll see tomorrow. So should be fun. ETH versus Cardano. Good question, MG Blazer. I mean, right now it's ETH versus basically everything from a platform perspective. And I mean, one of the things I always like to do, and I've done this a million different times, but I mean, if you go down to on-chain FX, go to general purpose platforms, it's ETH versus, what do we got here? It's ETH versus EOS, Cardano, Ethereum Classic, Neo, NEM, Ontology, Tezos. I actually have a pretty big personal position in Tezos. That's just one that I think is relative market cap wise to a lot of the other platforms. I think probably fairly valued and has an opportunity. It's really never gotten a chance to go through that hype cycle, and it's not trading on a ton of exchanges. So I have my portfolio, or I have a decent allocation in Tezos. But from Cardano's perspective, Cardano's I think a little bit maybe farther out on the vision and execution. I think in reality, probably the closest thing to me that fake Supo man, what's up? I always appreciate your fake tips. Thank you. Cardano is maybe a little bit farther out in terms of competing against Ethereum than something like EOS is to me. I know, I don't really have, I don't personally have any EOS at all, but I've gotten a chance to interact with a number of different, people in the space, and I am pretty, I'm not bullish necessarily on EOS, but I do think EOS is an interesting competitor to Ethereum. Actually, hold on. I think my refrigerator might be open. Oh, that was my washing machine. Whoops. Sorry about that. So we're all screwed. Bobby sinking ship. Get wrecked. Thanks, Robert. Love you, brother. Strong name as always. So I mean, when I look at it, I think EOS right now, EOS to me is a little bit more of a competitor to Ethereum than Cardano is. I do think it's an interesting balance of centralization versus decentralization. One thing that is interesting. So I actually had lunch with somebody this week who's pretty well versed on the EOS community. I myself am not necessarily a massive EOS proponent. I've joked about EOS before, but I think I'll likely have him on the channel later at some point in time, perhaps in the next month or so, probably more towards September, to talk about the EOS community because they're pretty involved in that, and maybe answer some questions or some misconceptions, things like that. So that should be an interesting conversation, just because I don't know all that much about the EOS ecosystem per se, block producers, things of that nature. So hopefully that'll be an educational experience, because he's the person I had spoken to, got lunch with, is like really well versed on that. And I was just shooting him questions back and forth, like, tell me about what, really tell me about the economic value behind a block producer. What are your thoughts on centralization versus decentralization of some of these, of Ethereum versus EOS? What are your thoughts on, what the best applications maybe to run on EOS are, things like that, or like, what the best dApps to run on EOS might be. So that at some point in time will probably be coming up in the future, which will be interesting. Wonderful bricks, wonderful full bricks Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, to YouTube, brother. So a couple different questions. Naima, your thoughts on Zilliqa and Enigma? So I believe Zilliqa moved back there. If I remember correctly, Zilliqa moved back their what do we got here? They moved back their time frame on a couple different things. Let's see, no airdrops or ETH giveaways. They have an AMA. I believe they moved back their I don't know if it's mainnet launch or whatever it might have been, but something was moved back recently. Zilliqa went through a massive hype cycle. I don't know how it might align with other things in the future here, but it definitely clearly pumped. I'm not exactly sure what was behind that. There's a lot of big funds behind it, like FBG and some of the other kind of Asian investors that typically can pump some of these coins. So Zilliqa had a crazy run back in, I think it was like April-May time for, March, April, May time frame. It's obviously cooled off. It's down 80% from its all-time highs. Let's see when the all-time highs were. Zilliqa's all-time highs were only 89 days ago, so 3 months ago, which is May, whereas everything else's all-time highs were typically like 200 plus days ago for the most part. So I'm not as necessarily maybe bullish on, from a price standpoint, Zilliqa moving forward. I also think charting within Zilliqa is something that could potentially be interesting. It also depends on when ETH or when Ethereum can maybe implement that as well. So there's a lot of different metrics to that. And Enigma, not exactly. I don't have a great judgment call on Enigma off the top. So Philippe Diego Oliveira, what's up, brother? Hey Bobby, did you already choose the crypto payment processor that you're looking for on Twitter for your dad? It's actually my friend's dad. I think we just are gonna, or I think talked a little bit about Coinbase commerce. So it's primarily e-commerce, and Coinbase looked like it might have been one of the simpler ones to set up for them. I think they take right now Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Litecoin and ETH. So, and they integrate with a number of different things. So I think that kind of off the top, Bitcoin Cash, ETH, and Litecoin in a pretty simplified dashboard, and it's a pretty legit company. I didn't want to necessarily steer them towards like a new ICO or anything like that. I know a lot of people mentioned like Pundix. A lot of people mentioned some of these other like smaller payment processors. And I know people have reservations about Coinbase in general, but if I'm recommending a grown man to a specific crypto project, and he's actually going to be taking money in it, I think Coinbase would probably be the most comfortable one that I would probably recommend. And I've used Coinbase Commerce for some stuff, and it's pretty good. I prefer that over BitPay. I really don't like BitPay because you have to use a different wallet. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Zemla, Bobby, what are your thoughts on XRP? As all of you know, I am a huge fan of XRP. Big proponent of XRP. Actually, I'm really not. I've talked about it before. I think it's, I think XRP personally is incredibly overvalued. I think Ripple is a legitimate company. I think that I think number one, XRP is overvalued. I think Ripple is a solid company. Outside of that, I just think the XRP army on Twitter is the most frustratingly annoying group of people on planet Earth. There are great people in XRP army though. I don't know if my man Vinny's watching. They're awesome people, but I made a joke about it, and my mentions were, I actually didn't mute the conversation, but I had all of the XRP community like just in my mentions all day long, posting memes, pictures, dogs, whatever. And it was, I wanted to jump out of a window. I did not do that. I'm still here today, but XRP army versus XVG army. I don't think there's anything left of XVG army. I don't think XVG army is there anymore. So XRP versus XVG, not a big fan of either of them. And doubling on top of not a fan of, Electroneum. Speaking of not a fan, Electroneum is another one that I am not a fan of. Haven't been a fan of Electroneum since the day it was created. I think Ripple is a team that can actually execute. Ripple is like I said, I think XRP is likely overvalued. I think Ripple has a bunch of kind of really strong. They have some strong ass talent, and they are a team that can execute. But I think the token itself is overvalued. Electroneum, I don't think there needs to be a token. I don't think there needs to be a lot of stuff there. So stop buying shitcoins, buy BTC, period. Yeah, so I'll dive into that, Robert, too. I'll talk a little bit, Robert S. Talk a little bit. I got a chance last week to dive a little bit down the Bitcoin maximalism rabbit hole. Chris Bourgeois, appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much, dude. Love to hear at least something about Zinfin in your opinion. I'm really like, I've gotten this question a number of different times in the past. I do not know an incredible amount about Zinfin. I don't know all that much about the ICO, so I can't really dive into it too much. I'd have to look into it further. I don't want to say anything negative about Zinfin because I don't know anything about it, but I also don't want to necessarily go positive. I remember, if I'm correct, Roger Ver is one of the one of the advisors. I haven't dove into the team too much. But I would need to do a little bit more research before I could say anything in specific that would be of any value. But going back into it, so Robert S. Stop buying shitcoins, buy BTC, period. Last week I had a chance to go to 2 dinners. That's one to be frank too, like, being in New York City, it's awesome because there are, outside of San Francisco, it's probably one of the most like heavily concentrated places of interest of Bitcoin and crypto. And specifically, I got a chance to go out with like 5 or 6 guys that are working in the Bitcoin industry on, I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday night. We started to do a thing where we go out and we eat barbecue and have like a little small dinner, go out and have some barbecue, have some beers, have some whiskey, whatever. Just talk about the industry, shoot the shit. It's fun. So I did that on Tuesday, I think it was, of last week. And then on Friday, if you guys are on like crypto Twitter, Pierre Rochard, who's a very big Bitcoin proponent, kind of how you would classify a Bitcoin maximalist. And then Safety Amus, I probably butchered his last name. I'm not Safety, who wrote the Bitcoin Standard, which I actually need to read. That's like the next book on my reading list. But Safety wrote the Bitcoin Standard, had a dinner in New York. There was like 70 people. It was pretty awesome, actually. I sat at a table with there were a couple different people that literally were working on the Bitcoin core code. Really intelligent people, so it was fun. Not everybody there was like a Bitcoin maximalist. There were people that like worked on Ethereum as well, but it was literally supposed to be like a steak and Bitcoin maximalist dinner. But just hearing different perspectives, and I am not a Bitcoin maximalist by any stretch, but at the same point in time, by far the biggest amount of my portfolio is Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin, I have the most trust in Bitcoin, a lot of things like that. So I just thought it was great to go out to dinner with these guys and meet a lot of people that are really passionate about Bitcoin and what it means and kind of just everything it stands for. So I'm looking at BCC Army coming back. So looking at one of these questions here, Andy Paul, hey Bobby, I heard from this great trader that if a coin lost over 93% of its value from its all-time high, that's a lot, but there's a lot of coins like that, it will most likely not recover. Do you agree? Well, I mean, here, we could do this. Let's see, So if a coin lost over 93% of its value, it would not recover. Well, on OnChainFX, which is the website I like to use a lot, on OnChainFX, in the top 107 cryptocurrencies, the top 107 crypto assets, how many have lost over 93 or over 90% of their value from the all-time high? Over 50%. That's crazy. Over 50% of crypto assets have lost over 90% of their value from all-time highs. Most typically in January. Of those, a significant amount, over 27, are down over 93% or higher. So that is not necessarily an unusual thing, but that is the level of wreckage. At the same point in time, though, if you go back to where we were a year ago, like it's pretty incredible to see just like historically speaking. Like here, we'll pop over to CoinMarketCap, and because this is my little 1 year anniversary, we'll go to historical snapshots. We'll take a look. Where we're August, we'll say August 11th. We'll say August 11th for the hell of it. So August 11th of that's wrong date. That's 2013. That was Bitcoin was cheap as hell. What we got? Okay, so August 6th. So yeah, 366 days ago. Just to give you a historical snapshot of where we were 1 year ago. Yes, we're down 90% in a lot of these assets. Yeah, it's crazy, right? But you look back a year ago, Bitcoin is actually still literally over double the price of where it was. It was at $3,200. Ethereum was at $258. Had Ripple was at 18 cents. Ripple is down now. For context, Ripple is at where the hell is Ripple at? Ripple is at 37 cents. It's down 90% from its all-time highs, but it's still up 2x from where it was a year ago. Pretty crazy to think about. Bitcoin Cash was at $213. I don't even, where's Bitcoin Cash now? It's at $653. You had Litecoin, you had NEM in the top 6. ETC, Dash, IOTA, Monero. Shout out to BitConnect, which was in the top 15 cryptocurrencies at $78 exactly a year ago. Shout out Carlos Matos. Shout out to the BitConnect gang. Y'all are homies. SEC up in that. So good luck to my man Trayvon going to testify at the SEC. That's probably going to be fun. Actually, that's pretty fucking crazy. What am I going to do? I don't know. So taking a look at some more of these questions. If you guys have specific questions, definitely hit it up. What do you think about excuse me. What do you think about Ethereum Classic on Robinhood? I believe Robinhood is also, or excuse me, I believe Ethereum Classic is now on Coinbase Pro, if I'm not mistaken. They are accepting deposits. Ethereum Classic itself it's down 11% today. It just dropped off a cliff. It was crushing it today, actually, and then has fallen. What do we got here? August 6th. Yeah, it was Ethereum Classic was crushing it earlier today and has pulled back. Personally, I mean, my thoughts on Ethereum Classic is, I don't know if necessarily the pump was, number one is Robinhood also getting listed on Coinbase. Ethereum Classic is as well. There are a number of different things that people point to with ETC, but personally, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think Ethereum Classic is going to be like if Ethereum loses, it's going to be to one of these other platforms. It's not going to be to Ethereum Classic because I don't think it's differentiated enough. I know people will point to immutability because of the DAO hack and a lot of other things like that, but they'll point to immutability and say, Ethereum Classic will be better than Ethereum because it's immutable and it's it's not moving to proof of stake, etc., etc. But I do think if Ethereum loses the platform race, it will be to something that's newer and hotter, like EOS, like Cardano, potentially Neo, like Tezos, like Qtum, whatever, Zilliqa, Icon, Rchain, who knows? It'll be to one of those. I think in some respects too that it's almost a deterrent. Like if Ethereum Classic is to beat Ethereum, I think it's almost a negative thing that it has Ethereum in its brand name, because if Ethereum loses, it's because Ethereum probably shits the bed in some manner or another. And if Ethereum shits the bed, why do you want to buy the classic version of Ethereum, So Crypto Galaxy says this, and I think that's a sentiment that a decent amount of people have. It's not a fun sentiment at all, or it's not a fun way to experience things, but it is a good point. So he says, guys, the market will eventually return to its all-time highs and go higher. Could be 6 months, could be 1 year more. The legit projects will return and soar. I tend to agree with that. with a few different caveats. Number one, when an all-time high, if we ever, and I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I am personally betting with my own money that we will see Bitcoin exceed its previous all-time highs of whatever, $20,000 or so. I personally am betting that will happen, and that some other assets will exceed significantly. On the other end of the spectrum, though, there are a lot of crypto assets out there that pumped to a ridiculous level in December and January of 2017, 2018, and have pulled off massively. And people are looking at it as, oh, now I'm buying this at a massive discount. It's at some point in time going to get back to its all-time high. It may not. The big thing I think to try to determine is, what are the assets that really deserve to be here? What truly actually has value, or what could be determined as valuable? And then where should I allocate my portfolio? Because I do think I've talked about it a little bit in the past in some other videos, but during a bear market, it hurts to exit a position when you've gotten your face ripped off on it. That's never fun. But you also, sometimes a loser is a loser. And if you take that money and you put that into something that in the future goes up a ridiculous amount, that isn't the worst thing in the world at all. So, I think sometimes cutting losses and moving them into positions that you feel better about isn't the worst thing on planet Earth. And the McGlowan eye. Oh man. Ever heard of Omfeef? Look them up and tell me. I'll have to look them up. I have not heard of them, haven't done any diligence on them, but yeah, we'll have to look them up, man. Wall Street will take this toy, crypto markets, away from the child and utilize it for adults. So in some cases, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that in totality. I think that there is a growing, and I have an opportunity in my day job to work with a lot of what I would consider to be sophisticated investors, sophisticated traders, people that are building infrastructure in the ecosystem, just generally intelligent people. And you see the level of sophistication that is being built into the markets. At the same point in time, I still don't think that anybody has any idea, for the most part, what they're doing when it comes to evaluating or valuing these assets and the proper ways to trade them, and everything of that regards. So I think that there is still a long way to go. I don't think necessarily Wall Street's just all these Wall Street institutions are just going to waltz in and just take over the entire market, and the little guys are going to get crushed and swapped out. But at the same point in time, I've had conversations, and I've even had people on the channel, like the guys. If anybody saw the interview that I did with the guys from CoVenture, Nikhil and Atit. Nikhil is a former SoftBank VC. Atit is a former Goldman trader, incredibly sophisticated trader. Numerous quantitative algorithms, pulling in data from 40 different exchanges, running a number of different quantitative models, like stuff that would blow your mind in 7,000 different directions. That's being done in the crypto asset market now. It's starting to be done, and talent is being pulled in from places like Goldman Sachs and other places that are like, hey, this is maybe a more interesting, more potentially lucrative opportunity, and I want to dive into this space at the right time. So there's a lot of different things like that. Travis Kling, who I've had on the show before as well, who was at Point72 Asset Management, long short portfolio manager, like guys like that. Like, they are entering the space. They're here now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like retail is going to completely get kicked out of the the kind of environment. So taking a look at as many of these questions as possible. We need Coinbase to allow people to use credit cards again. I mean, if what it takes for the crypto asset market to pump is people buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin on debt, or on basically going into debt on credit cards to do that, I'd rather not have the Bitcoin prices pump, because that's not good. I mean, if you want to buy something with a credit card, I guess it's, maybe a vendor shouldn't necessarily be able to say, hey, you can't buy this with a credit card or whatever. But I do think that you got to be financially responsible. If you only invest what you can afford to lose, and you can't afford to lose what you don't actually possess in the first place. So if you're taking $10,000 of credit card debt out to buy an asset like Bitcoin, maybe you're like, oh wow, Bitcoin was at 19,000, it's at $10,000 now. I'm going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and now it's at $6,000. Now you can't even pay back the loan. Now you can't even pay back your credit card bill if you wanted to. So I think that's not a good point. No, I would not. I don't think that's anything we need at all. Yeah, for consumer protection, I'm all for consumers being able to do what they want to do, but at the same time, at the same point in time as well, like if a credit card company, it's not really your money, you're taking out a loan, essentially, and if they want to not allow you to do that, then that's kind of their prerogative. Yeah, Chris Abbott. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, there's a lot of people, and I've talked to people that are pretty successful in the crypto world now that, maybe they took out a loan like a year ago or 2 years ago, and they're like, hey, I took out $5,000 or $10,000, and that $10,000 is now worth $500,000 or $1 million, whatever it might be, because the market just went absolutely nuts, and they did this or they did that. Then that's great, but that's not recommended, because as you've seen in the past 6 months, anybody who took out a loan in the past 6 months probably got their face ripped off because they, number one, weren't sophisticated, didn't have strong financial planning, whatever it might have been. So what am I drinking? I think it's Four Roses bourbon. It's pretty damn good. Just bourbon on ice. Nothing crazy. I don't know if you can see it. Naima, what's up? Any upcoming crypto blockchain conference you recommend to attend here or overseas? I think I might be going to World Crypto Con in Vegas I believe it's in October or November, something along those lines. So I think that might be one that I'm going to. I know a lot of people are going to the Voices conference. I think it's like Crypto Voice or Voice Crypto, something like that, in Chicago in a few weeks. I might potentially be going to ETH DevCon. I'm not sure if we actually got tickets to that or not. It might have been something with AirSwap I would have a chance to go to. Just that would have been pretty cool. I think it's in Prague, but tickets sold out in 4 minutes for that. So unfortunately, that's not something that I'll be able to go to. There's one, Eric 2, not going to Litecoin Summit September. Actually might be able to swing by. I'm going to be in San Francisco that week for some stuff. I am hanging out with the Busto team that I'm working with. So the team over at Busto, and there's a conference and panel I'm speaking at. I forget the event that I'm speaking at with them, but it's, I think, a day before and then overlaps with Litecoin Summit. So perhaps I will be able to stop by. We'll have to see. So in case anybody missed it earlier on, but I'll just really quickly recap, seeing a couple different questions about the Bitcoin ETF. The SEC obviously delayed that, and Initially, it's until September 30th. I think that they will delay that until the maximum allowable time frame that they have, legally speaking, which, according to Jake, who nailed it already, but Jake Chervinsky, according to him, I believe that's around February 21st of 2019. So I would not anticipate the SEC to come out and approve the Bitcoin ETF on September 30th. If I am wrong, fantastic. Bitcoin will probably pump through the roof, and I will probably be a wealthy man. But I do not expect it to be approved on September 30th. I would expect another delay and another delay, and then we'll see an ultimate decision on February 21st of 2019, which by that point in time, hopefully the infrastructure is built out. Hopefully the market, some confusion, maybe some regulation is cleared up. But yeah, that's kind of my thought process at this point in time. So looking at some of these questions, Hey Bobby, what do we got? Any comforting words for someone who's depressed because of this market? I mean, it all depends on, historically speaking, where you got in. I mean, I think that's the level of depression that a lot of people see and a lot of people feel. I mean, if you are like we showed before, pull up on Chain FX. I mean, there are a ton of assets down massively from their all-time high. I mean, we had something like NEM was at $2.09. It's now at 13 cents. Icon was at $12. Icon is now at 83 cents. Cardano was at $1.33. It's at 12 cents now. So I'm sure some of you guys saw the picture that I sent out on Twitter, where, you know, I'm sure some of you saw the picture I sent out on Twitter. My friend texted me, and at one point, you know, he bought into Cardano fairly early. I think he entered a portfolio in with like $4,000. At one point in time, his portfolio was worth like 35 grand, with like an initial $4,000, $3,000 investment. It's now back down to like $3,000-$4,000. So he's pretty much at break even. Maybe he's made like $1,000. But at one point in time, it was up about 30 grand because Cardano pumped 10x and he bought it at about 10 cents. So I think a lot of people are feeling the hurt across the board, especially depending upon when you got in. There's no really comforting words that I can be like, hey, yeah, you know, 90% down. It feels great. It feels awesome. It doesn't. I don't know what to say. So Eric, what would be bigger for mass adoption, ETF or Amazon announcement? So those are different levels of adoption. With the ETF, what you're looking at is more along the lines of allowing major or larger scale institutional investors to invest in Bitcoin with the confidence provided of insurance and of the backing of larger scale financial institutions, and not necessarily something like Coinbase or Zoppo or Gemini or whatever that have, while they are legit, they are, you know, less legit than some of the other alternatives, you know, like a CBOE backed, you know, VanEck, SolidX type of ETF. So an ETF, and especially initially because it's going to be pegged to 25, I think it was 25 Bitcoin is where the VanEck SolidX ETF is pegged to. So it's not like if you have, let's say you have, you know, $10,000 in your Scottrade or in your whatever account, TD Ameritrade account or Fidelity account, you can't go in and with $10,000 buy that Bitcoin ETF. You need to be able to afford 25 Bitcoin, essentially, is what you need to buy. So think about the people that applies to. Obviously, that's wealthy individuals and institutions who want access to Bitcoin, but can afford to pay for 25 Bitcoin still at a tiny percentage of their portfolio. Because when you think about it, for the most part, anybody who's buying Bitcoin on an institutional basis is usually doing it with like 1% or less of their portfolio. They're not going in and, you know, allocating 50% of a portfolio to Bitcoin. They're not going to do that. So when you're talking about the ETF, it's really applying to larger scale investors, especially, and that's why a lot of people think that the VanEck SolidX ETF is more attractive to regulators and to the SEC, because retail investors can't speculate on it. I can't go into that TD Ameritrade or Fidelity account and buy buy a Bitcoin ETF with $5,000. I can't afford it. I would need $1 million to buy 2 shares of the ETF or whatever it might be. So that's something there. Amazon announcement on the other end of the spectrum, that's obviously retail focused. However, I am still, and I've always been very skeptical, but I am very skeptical of Amazon accepting crypto at any point in time in the near future. There have been a lot of people, shout out James Altucher, who have tried to pump that news. Altucher's been saying that Amazon is going to accept Bitcoin and cryptocurrency since like September of 2017. And it's never happened. And I don't think that Amazon's stock price is ridiculous. Amazon is one of the most successful companies in the world. Why do they need to accept Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? It's just they probably don't need the headache. And that's my honest opinion. Would I love for that to happen because I could spend my Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at Amazon? Hell yeah. But do I see them doing that at any point in time? I don't. At least not in the near future. So taking a look at some of these questions here. Same all in. So Amazon, Justin Birkin says Amazon would make their own coin, ... Amazon has something similar to their own coin. They have like Amazon dollars, I think, or Amazon points. What do they have? It's like Amazon. I'm trying to search in the other. Here we go. Oh, boom. Yeah, 2013. Does this sound familiar? Amazon launched its own currency to make it easier to spend on Kindle. Following the footsteps of Microsoft and Nintendo, Amazon has announced its own virtual currency for game, app, and in-app purchases called Amazon Coins. So, Amazon already has their own in-app stuff. They have Amazon Coin. So, yeah, that's already... It's not a cryptocurrency, but they already have it. So that... You know, I don't think they're going to launch their own cryptocurrency because they already have Amazon Coin, and I don't think it has a ton of adoption. So why would a crypto one have it? Oh, shit. And will BCC make a comeback? Is that a sick joke? So all right, BitConnect. BitConnect is still at a $6 million market cap. Shout out to BitConnect. I mean, there's a whole 7. Oh, that's so satisfying. All the people are that like, Rob, BitConnect's real. It's not a scam. It's not a scam at all, bro. I'm making sick gains, man. You know, there's nothing scammy about BitConnect. It is totally natural. Good luck. I mean, if you want to exit a position, it's gonna take you 7 years to exit a position on Trade Satoshi right now. So BitConnect is as dead as it's always been. Look, honey, I'm hang gliding and I'm dead. Shout out Will Ferrell. Even Carlos Mato's wife told him it wasn't a scam. RIP in peace. Daniel Yim, did the Airswap guys work closely with the Masari team? I had some really nice conversations with them. I was actually, I like a lot of the guys from the Masari team. I've gotten a chance to speak to Ryan Selkis before. Great dude. Eric, Hector, Catherine. Masari team's awesome. I actually even got a chance to go to their office last week. They had me over, had a beer. Super good team. Trying to do a lot of awesome things in the space. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to work on some things in the future. But really respect what Masari is doing and kind of the vision that they have. Is crypto donezo? Do you want it to be, Mitchell? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. But I also am heavily biased towards thinking that crypto isn't donezo. Otherwise, I would sell and liquidate everything I have and run for the hills. I haven't done that yet because I'm a weenie boy. But I would have been a lot better off doing that if I January 10th or so, I would have been a lot better off just cashing out the whole portfolio and running to the hills and buying a Lambo and seeing it then. I am McLovin. Friend bought Bitcoin at all-time high, and now his wife are divorced. It's rough. It's rough. I hope it was only one Bitcoin, and that wasn't the sole factor of that divorce, because that's not good. Coulda, woulda, didn't. Yeah, that's right. I don't lose sleep over, Johnny boy. What stocks do I hold? Just primarily index and ETFs. Not really mostly an individual stock guy. Mostly my money's in 401ks, and then I use Betterment as well. Like Betterment's another thing I use. So that's kind of, it just diversifies your money. I spend too much time evaluating shitcoins personally to spend evaluating stocks. I don't know much about equities. I don't pretend to know much about equities. I also find it pretty damn funny that everybody on Twitter is now all of a sudden, with crypto going down, is now all of a sudden a seasoned equity trader, when half of them, half of them, half of us haven't graduated high school for the most part. And these guys are out there, because they made 10x on Dogecoin, are now trading equities with leverage in a highly competitive market. So thanks, Dale. Appreciate that. Also, thank you very much, Mike. It looks like some other. Mitchell, do you do any real estate? No, I don't. I don't really have any money in real estate. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I right now don't have any money in real estate. I still would rather have my capital deployed for the time being in crypto. I might regret that I might seriously regret that in a year or two. That's definitely possible. This market may never come back, but I feel like the risk reward in crypto assets is at the point where I feel comfortable with the risk and the reward. And that's kind of how I view things, just personally, is, I look at what am I risking and what is the potential reward. And I'm comfortable getting my face ripped off on, and I have gotten some of my face ripped off on crypto this year, but I'm comfortable with that in exchange for what I view as the potential reward if and when if we ever see another bull run. If we do, then I will be in a good position. If we don't, then I put a certain amount of capital to risk, and that was my decision, and that wasn't the right decision. But you got to bet money to make money. How you guess I didn't graduate high school, Steven? It was written on your just S avatar, because you don't actually have an avatar, so it's written. It was all over your face, brother, all over your face. So what are we looking at here? So are there any coins pegged to the commodities to the prices of commodities besides petro? So security tokens are definitely coming to the forefront right now, or they're definitely growing in popularity, and that's one of the things that I'm having an opportunity to explore. Tokenized securities, digital securities, whatever anybody wants to call them. At AirSwap, doing a lot of work with that. Really interesting field to be working in, spending some time in. And that's something, going on the real estate topic, that there are a lot of companies and there's a lot of work being done in tokenized real estate. So maybe it's buying a token representative of an apartment building in New York City, or whatever, a place in Texas or California, whoever, or internationally. But real estate, tokenized VC firms, I'm working with the guys at City Block Capital, and then CoVenture deploying the $10 million they're raising. They're investing that in different type of crypto infrastructure. But there's a lot of really interesting things that are going on from a security token or digital security standpoint. And some of those things are potentially commodities pegged, crypto tokens that are pegged to the price of commodities. I don't necessarily see that as like a holy shit awesome use case yet. I know there are companies, I've seen companies pitch ICOs that are like pegged to emeralds and pegged to diamonds and things like that, but that doesn't necessarily interest me as much as maybe real estate or tokenized VC funds or equity in pre-ICO startups or anything like that. Justin Birkin, been mining since December. Bags are growing. Overall USD value stays the same. That's interesting, and that's kind of the same. That's kind of the same point for me too. To be honest with you, like where I've been at my where I've been in my portfolio, and a lot of you guys know I dollar cost average on somewhat of a consistent basis. But especially recently, unfortunately, I bought a decent amount of Bitcoin at about $7,700. we're down about $1,000 from there. I bought a decent amount of Bitcoin at $7,700. That's down nicely. Shit the bed on that one. I could probably buy a little bit more right now. I might hold off, see if we, go below $6, the $5,200 that everybody's talking about right now. If we do, I'll probably buy more Bitcoin. But my bags have been growing substantially. My USD value has either stayed the same or gone down. But what I'm trying to do is position myself, if the market ever does come back, to be in a solid position, financially speaking, for that. So we'll have to see. Hopefully that'll pan out for you. If you've been mining since December, you've been diligent, you've been crushing it. So that would hopefully be nice. So the Paul D, isn't all that stuff trusted then? Where's the trustlessness when some company tells you your token is connected to a commodity? I mean, for security tokens, for digital securities, it's you actually have ownership rights over those. It's literally a registered security. It is a Reg D or a Reg S offering. It is a registered security. You actually have ownership over those assets. So if somebody tokenizes a building in New York City, if somebody tokenizes a $30 million apartment building in New York City, you actually have ownership rights to that building, depending upon how the token is structured. So it's similar to just buying equity in an LLC or something like that, but rather than having a paper form of it, it's a token. It's an ERC20 token. Greg Pantane, have I bought anything recently other than Bitcoin? I have not bought a ton recently outside of I bought Bitcoin, and I've reallocated a little bit of my portfolio to Tezos. Tezos is one thing that I've allocated a little bit more of my portfolio into. So that's kind of where I've been at. But like I said last week, I got a chance to interact a lot more with the quote unquote Bitcoin maximalist folks. And I'm not going to say I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, but my conviction in Bitcoin, I would say, grows and grows by the day. So thanks a lot, Krem. I appreciate that, brother. So Fud Zero said, did you manage to see Doug Polk's interview of a Bitcoin maximalist yesterday? Saifedean, good discussion, worth though he shits on anything but Bitcoin, worth the watch. Yeah, that's the dinner I was at on Friday. Was literally, so Saifedean wrote a book, and then Pierre Rochard, who's another Bitcoin maximalist, hosted this dinner basically for Saifedean to come, and then to come to the dinner and talk a little bit just about Bitcoin. His flight was actually delayed, so he didn't get to stay for the whole dinner, but got beers afterwards as well. Good dude, very passionate about Bitcoin, very thorough ideas on economics, and he wrote the Bitcoin Standard, which from everything I've heard is a fantastic book. So I need to read it. I have not read it yet, unfortunately, but that is, like I said before, literally the next book on my reading list. Thank you very much, Crypto Arnie. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, sure, man. Hit me up, Crypto Arnie. Definitely do it, brother. Richard Chase, Bitcoin Standard is amazing. Yeah, I've heard good things from both Bitcoin maximalists and non-Bitcoin maximalists. So here, I'll actually pull it up. Let's see. So let's see. Here you go. Yeah. So this is the book, Saifedean Ammous. It was the one that the dinner was for on Friday, and then somebody mentioned he was on Doug Polk's podcast recently. So shout out to Doug Polk as well. Awesome dude. Love Doug. Really solid dude. But I need to read this book. It's on Kindle hardcover audiobook, so I really have no excuse not to read it, but I've heard fantastic things about it. And I think even for from what I've spoken to people about, even folks that are just not even big, like not even close, like the lunch I had earlier this week with somebody who is very involved in the EOS community, who, that's EOS and Bitcoin is not necessarily like not the same thing at all, like by any stretch, but said that the book really helped to put into context why Bitcoin maximalists think a certain way, as well as made sense of a lot of the, kind of different arguments around it too. So I think some folks are saying that this is kind of now like basically required reading. So I'm definitely going to read it. I'll pass further judgment when I get through the entire process of reading it. But from everything I've heard, everybody says it's awesome. Nasty J, it feels like Bitcoin sentiment among the general public is at an all-time low since the 2017 bull run. Is it just me, or does it feel like we're in for a long, cold, broke winter? I mean, we've been in a winter for 6 months when it comes to Bitcoin. After a massive, ridiculous run, as we saw before with the historical price of Bitcoin, basically exactly a year ago, we're at $3,200. So we are double the price. We're over double the price of what we were 365 days ago. If you talk about any normal asset class, 100% return over the course of 365 days is outrageous. That's fantastic. That's ridiculous. However, you look back and then you think, okay, well, at one point in time, it wasn't 100% return. It was 500 or 600% return. And it's obviously pulled back significantly from that. So, when you look at that, when you think about that, you put everything in context. Yes, we've been in a quote unquote winter for 6 months or so, actually more than that, probably close to 8 months or so when it comes to Bitcoin specifically. Probably really like 8 months of a bear market with Bitcoin. It's fun making content for 8 months in a bear market, I'll tell you that much. But we've been in a bear market for 8 months. The interesting thing is that the infrastructure and the development is only accelerating. I know, it's hard, especially for anybody who, maybe a lot of you guys right now or girls at home are watching, and you don't have a lot of direct interaction with the crypto asset community. Maybe you live in an area you most likely live in an area that's not San Francisco or New York or maybe somewhere in Asia or Europe, where there's like a ton of like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency development and activity, and you don't get to see a lot of the stuff that's going on a day-to-day basis. There is a ton of work that is being done on a daily, consistent basis when it comes to the crypto world, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum too, where these companies are just putting a ton of energy, resources, and development talent into this. And I think, while the price of Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies has gotten whomped in the past 8 months, the utility, the development, the improvements to user interface, they've improved like by a staggering amount, which is what matters. I think that it's unfortunate because if we saw a normal gradual run up over the course of from like August of last year until where we're at now, you wouldn't have these crazy feelings. Maybe you wouldn't be as interested in the market though. If we didn't see a 10x jump up, maybe you wouldn't even be here watching this channel right now. Maybe your friends would have said, hey, I just made 10x on some random shitcoin. Come do this stuff with me. But if it was a slow, steady gain and not this ridiculous run up and then drop down, but we are still way above where we were last year, things could be very, very different. So you have to put everything in historical context, but it doesn't necessarily make it hurt any less when you think about potentially how much money on paper you lost or how much money in reality if you lost. BTC Kyle, what's up, brother? Hope all is well. I see lots of new Lambos in southern France this summer. Thanks, Ross. Thank you very much, man. Fud Zero, thanks, Bobby. Any thoughts on Nouriel Roubini? There's a good debate on Milken's Institute YouTube page, the topics of cryptocurrency, irrational exuberance, or Brave New World. Yeah, so Nouriel Roubini actually spoke. AirSwap held a conference, the Fluidity Summit, and I actually saw Nouriel Roubini speak in person. We had Nouriel debate Joe Lubin, who is one of the founders of Ethereum, and he runs Consensus, which is a 800 plus employee, kind of Ethereum infrastructure type of company. And we had Joe Lubin debate Noriel. Noriel makes actual good points. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that he's going to hate on regardless. And I think he wants to see the market fail and a lot of, the crypto asset market fail to kind of say, hey, I was right and you guys are idiots. But he was actually, there's certain things he said. To be honest, he's kind of a funny, halfway charming, charismatic dude in person. But it depends on who he's debating too. Like if it's somebody who's like, I think the Milken Institute debate got pretty heated when he was talking to Joe Lubin. Joe's like a cool, calm, collected dude who is not maybe going to necessarily match the aggressiveness as somebody like Noriel. And it was an interesting conversation. But like I said, he cracked some jokes. He was literally in a room of the air swap fluidity conference that we had. Was great, and it was 99.9% people that it was Noriel and 800 people that all love crypto and love Ethereum and Bitcoin and crypto assets and whatever else, and then there's Noriel just sitting there shitting on everybody, and he knew it and he kind of played along with it and he was pretty funny. So I'm not going to totally hate on it, but I do think that there are a lot of he wants the market to fail, because if it does, then he's right and it's I told you so. And some people like that, you make correct calls in certain fields and you can hang your hat on that for the rest of your career and say, hey, I called the 2008 everybody, the Big Short, all that stuff, all those guys that were in the Big Short and all that, I called the 2008 housing bubble. Boom. That's for the rest of my career. That's the guy who called the 2008 housing bubble. Or if crypto eats shit forever, Noriel Roubini is the guy who called the Bitcoin crash at whatever $20,000 or $15,000 or $10,000. So people like that go out on a limb, and if they're right, then awesome, their career's made. Or it's already made in a lot of respects. But if they're wrong, then no harm, no foul. Dale, really appreciate that super chat. Thank you very much. Awesome to have you here since September. It's pretty crazy to think about. Thank you so much, man. Nasty J is a tool and die machinist. Don't have anything to do unless something breaks. Happy to have you here, brother. Hopefully you're not drinking whiskey on the job like I'm drinking whiskey on, I guess this is the job, but drinking whiskey on the job. So hopefully you're not doing that, but appreciate you always watching, brother. So Fortune Films, good thought there. Hardest part of crypto is taking profits when they're staring at you. Yes, I think that is definitely one of the more difficult parts of crypto, because you look. The historicals can really fuck with your mind when it comes down to it, because you think about a lot of these different assets and you constantly hear about, oh, so and so bought Bitcoin at $100, or so and so bought Ethereum at $1 or $5 or $10, or they bought Ripple at 1 cent, whatever it might be. And maybe you buy a crypto asset that's not one of those things, and it goes up 100%, or it goes up 200%, or 300%, and you're like, wow, this just went up 300%. But I know people that are now set for life because Bitcoin went up 100x, or because Ripple went up 50x. And I'm not going to settle for 3x. It's only 3x. Why would I settle for a 300% gainer? That's silly. I don't want to do that. And then unfortunately, the asset drops back down and it goes from 300% to 250 to 200. And all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're up 10% and you're like, wow, I should have sold when this was at 3x. So it's impossible to predict the future in a lot of standpoints. I think you always want to, it's never a bet. Nobody ever went broke taking profit. A lot of people have said that before, but I think that's a really good point. And, going back to the Cardano example and any example from December and January, You know how many people were up 10, 15, 20x on their investments? They turned $5,000 into 100 grand, and now they're back with like $5,000 because the market pretty much completely retraced, and they, went up on this ridiculous run, and they saw how much money they're making. It's like, all I need to do is do that one more time. I went from $5,000 all the way up to 100 grand. Holy crap. All you need to do is for this to happen one more time, and I have $2 million. It's going to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then the market starts dropping. And it's like, well, I have $80,000 now. It's not $100,000, but it's going to go back up. And it's at 70, then it's at 60. And all of a sudden you're at $5,000 again. Oh, in 8 months. So, taking profits is difficult, but nobody ever went nobody ever went broke taking profits. Yeah, like Zach said, man, RIP for your loss, but 4K to 52K and back to 8ish. I would assume that there are a lot of people out there like that. I would absolutely assume that there are a lot of people that had maybe a couple $1,000s in the market and were like, holy crap, I could buy a sick car with this now. And then all of a sudden you're back and you're like, I can't even buy a lemon on the side of the street for this now. So taking profits I think it is one of the more difficult things to do, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, because you look back and you think, wow, I should have taken profits at $52,000. Obviously, it's hindsight. Hindsight's always 2020. At the same point in time, maybe you took those profits and it went up another 10x. People that took profits at Bitcoin, that bought Bitcoin at $100 and took profits at 1,000 and left the market, that sounded like great and it sounded fantastic at the time. It went up another 20x at one point, still up 6x from there. So you never know specifically. You really just never know. Taking a look at some of these questions. So Hourglass makes an interesting point, and then I'll counteract some of that, just for argument's sake. But so Hourglass says, I made it clear to myself I'm not taking profits for 5 years no matter what the F happens. Keep accumulating. This market ain't disappearing. Yes, in some respects, I think that's true. I think there are certain assets. I think Bitcoin, I think probably Ethereum, maybe something like Monero, who knows, are probably not disappearing. There probably are in 5 years a lot of crypto assets, whether they're utility tokens, whatever it might be. There probably are a lot of assets out there that will disappear. So I would say that if you stick to this industry and you continue to accumulate high quality assets, although high quality assets is very debatable. A lot of people have different opinions on what a high quality asset in crypto is, but try to determine what a high quality asset is for you, and continue to accumulate over the course of 5 years. You'll probably be pleasantly surprised with things. But if you get married to a bag, there are just for context, 5 years. So we'll go back 5 years. I look back a year ago. So we looked back a year ago, and we looked at that. But let's go 5 years ago to this date, let's say August 11th. How many of you guys know, just real quick in the comments section, 5 years ago, you guys know Bitcoin? Litecoin was at $2.06. Holy shit, Ripple was less than a cent. That's awesome. Ripple's market cap was $33 million in August of 2013. Litecoin's was $52 million. Bitcoin's was not even $2 billion. So just for market cap. But outside of that, the thing that I wanted to bring up was, how many of you guys own or know what Namecoin is? Purecoin, Feathercoin, Novacoin, Primecoin, TerraCoin, DevCoin, DigitalCoin, Frycoin, WorldCoin, Yacoin, Mincoin, Megacoin, ICX, Bullion, Infinity, or Phoenix Coin? Does anybody actually own any of those? Because if you do, RIP and peace to you. But actually, I mean, they're probably still up because those are like less than $1 million market caps. It's crazy to think that there was a coin in the top 10 that had less than $1 million market cap. But if anybody owns any of those, that was 5 years ago. So think about that. Think about 5 years in the future. Never marry a bag, even if it's Bitcoin. Who knows? I mean, I am very much a Bitcoin proponent, but just never, ever, 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 ever marry a bag. Thank you very much, Naima. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Take it easy. Purecoin to the moon, man. It was. Where's Purecoin at now? Is that $3 million? Ooh, wow. It's a $46 million market cap coin. Oh, at one point in time, it pumped up to 200 mil. So Purecoin was the move. Doge got me into crypto, as a lot of you guys know. Escalate, I'll have to check, man. I'm sorry, my email inbox is just an absolute shit show 90% of the time. Sam Rosenberg, what does AirSwap think of Bitcoin Cash? I mean, we're not necessarily, I mean, AirSwap is more in the Ethereum ecosystem than the Bitcoin ecosystem, so I don't think we have an official company opinion on Bitcoin Cash, to be pretty frank with you. What's up, Joakim? Always good to see you, brother. Always see you in the comments. The man. Kim Kardashian tweeted out about Bitcoin and just crashed the market, and I am not cool with that. I'm not happy about that. God damn it, Kim. But guys, outside of that, first of all, again, thank you very much for all the support in the past year. I really, like, no BS. I know I joke around a lot. Even if you are the biggest Ripple fan, XRP fan, Verge fan, BitConnect fan, Electroneum fan, Feathercoin fan, Primecoin fan, I don't give a crap what you are, but I really do appreciate all the support from every single one of you guys. I've seen a lot of you guys. Shout out to you, Morgan Freeman. I see you, brother. But it's crazy to just see the past year from the crypto landscape. So I'm really looking forward to the next year as well and kind of what that brings. Hopefully you guys can stick by me. Hopefully my content is good enough to allow you to stick by me. That would be awesome. If you guys have suggestions, I'm always up for it. Any thoughtful criticism, I'm always here for it. But I really, no BS, appreciate every single one of you. For the time being, though, I might sit on my couch a little bit, maybe refill this maybe refill this glass of whiskey, watch some Netflix, and kind of enjoy myself, celebrate the 1 year anniversary. I really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Christian, all you guys been here since day one, day two, whatever it's been, yesterday, I don't care. Thank you guys so much for the time. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button. I would really appreciate that. And if by any chance, if you're new, hit the subscribe. I would really appreciate that as well. Take it easy, everybody. Crypto Bobby signing out. Peace.